Hi, thank you for watching this video. We're going to go over some cybersecurity fundamentals for this module. And the first of these modules will be configuring endpoint security. And for this particular video, it's just configuring firewall rules using Windows Firewall. So we understand that a firewall protects our computer from unauthorized access by users or applications outside your corporate network, right? So to make the firewall more effective, we need to define and edit these firewall rules. So these rules analyze the packets and that's coming to the computer or network and compare whether the specified conditions are satisfied and then allow and deny access to the computer or network accordingly. So Windows firewall applications, they enable you to configure and edit the firewall rules, right? So I'm going to go through a few exercises as far as the demonstration of doing this. And so we'll be, mainly creating firewall rules using Windows Firewall and verify the efficiency and managing access to the computer. So first, we're just going to verify the enabled network connection. Now, when two computers connected to each other on a network that has a live connection, when they can communicate with each other over the connection, we can verify a live connection by pinging one computer from the other one. And in this task, I'm going to ping the practice lab Windows 10, which is this one here. I can click on it. From the practice lab we were just on, I believe the practice lab DC01, to verify that the connection between them is live. So to verify, it's going to make sure we connect to DC01. Then we're going to hit start here. We really don't need to hit start. We just need to go to the command prompt, and I'll use CMD to get there. And then we're going to tell it what computer we're reaching out to. It should be this one here. And so we'll notice that the command pings the practice lab Windows 10, which is the fully qualified domain name of fully spelled out as practicelab.com. And then it also shows the where it's replying from as far as the IP, right? So then we're going to exit out of here. This command. Okay. And now we're going to create a Windows firewall rule. So a rule for firewall, it defines whether the inbound or outbound traffic to and from a specified software, computer, or user is used to be fully, partially, completely blocked or allowed. So we can also specify whether the rule applies to the local area network, the wide area network, remote access, and all of these modes of operations of the computer. So these rules can be easily reconfigured with the evolving IT environment, especially in a large enterprise. So, what we're going to do is we're going to connect back to this VM here. So we're going to search for Windows Firewall, if I can spell correctly. Okay. All right. Perfect. Now on the window for the Windows Firewall, let me maximize this. We'll notice that the Windows Firewall state is off for the domain networks profile. So we're going to click allow an app or feature to Windows Firewalls link on here, right? So we're going to do the change settings, right? And let's see. Now we're going to locate the file and printer sharing on the allowed programs features list on the and clear the checkboxes. Then we're going to click OK. Good thing is this is all in alphabetical order, so it shouldn't be too hard to find. There we go. So we hit OK here. All right, perfect. So we're redirected back to the Windows Firewall window. And then we're going to click on turn Windows Firewall on or off. And then under the domain network settings section, we're going to select the radio button, turn on the Windows firewall. Okay, here. So we're just going to ignore the private and the public ones, at least for this exercise, right? So now we're going to test the firewall rule that we've just created, right? So now I'm going to switch back over to DC01, and then we're going to do our command prompt here. Then we're going to tell it what to ping or who to ping. Let's see. There we go. Now, the command again, now it pings the Windows 10 lamp, right? But this time there's no response from the computer and the request is timed out. Now, this is because the firewall rule that I've created, it blocks any ping packets going to that lab, to that virtual machine. And so we're going to now reconfigure that rule that we've just configured. Now, we easily edited the firewall rules once we've configured them. Now we're going to access the firewall settings as we would to create a rule and specify the new rule. Now we're just going to reconfigure the rule to allow incoming ping packets to the practice lab for Windows 10 device to verify the same. So I'm going to switch back over to the practice lab Windows 10. Then we're going to go back over to the Windows firewall here. And allow an app or feature back to where we were. And then let's see, change settings. Just going back to exactly where I was before, just see. Okay. All of these, click. I'm gonna hit OK. Okay. Sure. That's not. Well, it shouldn't be in here. I'm checking anyway. Allow a connection. Okay. Just double checking here because for some reason this private and public network, it's fine, but the domain is not. Just double checking here. They're all checked, so I'm not sure what's going on here. Just exit out and open it back up. There we are. Okay, let's see if it did work, even though I'm not really sure. That's interesting. Okay, let's see if it works anyway. Okay. It does still work. That's a bit weird that it was showing that way. But yeah, so we've successfully did what we set out to do in terms of configuring a few firewall rules using Windows Firewall. We first established that there was a live connection, and then we configured a few different rules for the firewall to block incoming traffic whenever we did ping, and then we verified that it was blocked. Then we've also unblocked it and verified that it was unblocked for a live connection again. So that went pretty well. Actually like that instead of, even though we did hit a little snag there. But we are going to continue with the show. So now what we're going to do is continuing the same theme, right, of configuring firewall rules. So now we're going to be using Windows Firewall with advanced security, right? So Windows versions including 2008, Vista, they provide another built-in application for system security. So Windows Firewall with advanced security. And this application actually offers an expansive view of firewall security and has additional features compared to the scaled down version of Firewall on Windows XP. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to create a firewall rules using the Windows Firewall with advanced security, as I mentioned. And what we're going to do right now is just, again, do what I initially did before it. That's verifying the connection between the two labs that we were using prior with DC01 and Windows 10. All right, so I'm going to make sure I'm connected to DC01, which I am. All right, and then I'm going to go to the network settings. All right, once it opens, the network and sharing center, then we're going to see if we can move my big head out of the way. Windows Firewall, right? So then we're noticing now that the firewall, we see that it's now activated for all three network profiles, right? So domain networks, home or work, which are normally private networks, and public networks. So just going to leave that window open, and then just going to connect to the practice lab for Windows 10. If I can find it, there it is. All right, then we're going to go back to the command line interface, right? There it is, finally. All right, so now we're just going to ping the other lab here, BC01. All right, so now that we've seen that we pinged it, we've gotten the response that we want. Hey, there's a live connection. Hey, what's up? I see that you said hello. What's up? What you got for me? You know, kind of thing as far as those reply. And now what we're going to do is create a firewall rule using Windows Firewall with advanced security. I feel like I'm just like a million times saying that. So I'm just, I can create the rules with the advanced security feature in it. And now with this particular task, I'm going to create a firewall rule to block the ping response from the DC01, right? So I'm going to connect to DC01, and we'll see here in the advanced settings in the window pane here. Then I'll go to the inbound rules from the console tree on the left pane. Now in the inbound rules pane, it's the middle of the window, displays the details of the various firewall inbound rules. So I'm just going to scroll down the inbound rules pane to the file and printer sharing rule. And then all of this is in alphabetical order, so it shouldn't be too hard to find. Should it work? Okay. There it is. All right, perfect. So now we have the properties menu up for that particular, for file and print sharing, right? So now we have the general tab that's selected here. And in the action section, we're going to block the connection and hit apply, right? Ultimately what we want. All right, now we'll notice that the firewall file and printer sharing rule displays a blocked icon on the left here, and we're going to leave that window open. Now, of course, for the testing portion, the rules that are created using any Windows application are equally effective. So now I'm going to test the effect of the rule using the Windows Firewall with advanced security feature. All right, so I'm going to go back to the practice lab, and I'm going to ping this guy again. See what happens. Should time out on me. Okay. Yep, there it is. All right, perfect. It timed out. We got the result we wanted. All right, timed out a few times actually. So these rules can be easily reconfigured. So this helps reconfigure the computer in accordance with the evolving IT environment, especially in a large enterprise. So I'm just going to reconfigure the DC01 to respond to the ping request. So I'm just going to switch back to the DC01. And then we have the previous menu we were at before, the Windows Firewall with the advanced security window and the inbound rules pane. We're going to right click or double click this guy here. We want to allow the connection. I don't know. So then we'll just allow that guy here. And we'll notice that the file and printer sharing rule displays an allowed. You like the green check mark, right? So now we're just going to close all of these here. We don't need these guys anymore. Get out of here. Okay, and now we're going to switch back to Windows 10. Hey, Windows 10, how you doing, buddy? I'm doing all right. All right, so then we're going to try it again, test the connection. And yes, we have a reply. He says, hey, what's up, man? I heard you were calling for me. What's going on? All right. So then now we notice, of course, the response to our ping request. Evidently, we could reconfigure the firewall rule and thereby reconfigure the server to respond to the ping request. All right. And that was that for advanced security features for firewall rule configurations. All right. Now, we're going to be using configuring firewall rules using remote desktop, right? So we need to understand first what remote desktop is. And it's a built-in feature of Windows and later Windows in general. I was going to say Windows XP, but I mean, who uses that? Now, remote desktop enables us to set up a connection with any remote computing device on any network, such as, well, on your network you're trying to connect to, whether that's private or usually private home or work, that we can access the desktop of the computer despite its, that we can access the desktop of the computer and operate its resources if they were on a local computer. So it's similar to a VPN connection, but a remote desktop connection actually gives you more control over the resources of the remote device. And so what we're going to do is set up a remote session, right? So now we're going to set up a remote desktop session to connect to and operate on the network but present at a geographically remote location. Now, we can then use the session to create firewall rules. And in this task, we're going to set up a remote session with the Practice Lab Windows 10 and the DC01 computer, right? So now we're going to connect to the, well, we already have connected to the Windows 10. All right, perfect. So we're going to make sure that we type in remote down here, and this little guy here. How you doing, buddy? Thanks for getting me where I need to go. All right, perfect. So we have the remote desktop connection here. All right, so it's asking us, hey, what computer do you want to remote into? I want to remote into the Practice Lab DC01. All right, let's go there. And of course, we need a password. I'm going to put this top secret password in here. Let's see if it's right. There it is. And we'll see that we're logging into our physical device. And we know that we've successfully connected by the name of the device that we're controlling here. Even though we're still located technically within Practice Lab Windows 10, we actually have control over the Practice Lab DC01 from a remote session with the lab for Windows 10. All right, so now that we've successfully connected, we're going to create a firewall. So now that we have our desktop remote session established, you can access the resources of the remote computer, which in this case is DC01, as if they are available to us on our physical computer. So we're going to use this connection to create rules on the remote computer, and then we're going to create a rule to block DC01 for responding to any ping request from Windows 10, that practice lab. So on the DC01 desktop, we're going to go to the network settings. Let's see. We're going to go to the network and sharing center. We're going to just follow the same steps that we did in the earlier exercise. We're just going to get to the file and printer sharing. Let's see. Well, let me get to it. Let's see here. This isn't it. There it is. There it is. All right. Pretty much just doing exactly what we did before. The only difference is we're controlling one computer from another computer remotely to pretty much do the same exact thing. Nonetheless, it's a major difference. And then we're just going to test in a moment. We're going to, so now that we have that setting configured, let's see, we got it blocked, right? Display, now it displays that block sign. That's what we need. Okay, yeah, just gonna get up out of here. Actually, yeah, we're gonna we wanna end our remote session. And with us ending the remote session, that brings us back to the desktop of Windows 10, and we're gonna test this connection, right? So let's test it. If it lets me type, there we go. Should time out. Should time out. There we go. That's perfectly fine. I'll move back to this bad boy. It lets me. Come on, guy. Let's leave that. Just minimize it. Ask me for a password. Okay. Tell me you trust me, but still gotta verify me, huh? Okay. All right, so we're gonna turn this bad boy back on to allow the connections, because that's what we like to see. All right, there we go. That's what we really want to see right there, right there, right on there. So we're going to go back, disconnect, bring this bad puppy up here, go and do one of those so I don't have to rewrite it. And then boom, we're talking again. We weren't talking, got mad at each other, things happen, and now that we've spoken our piece, we talked it over, and it went pretty smooth, and now we're back on talking terms again, right? So pretty much again, just a reiteration of what we did before as far as configuring firewall rules. It's just a different ways of going about doing it, right? So we did it as if we were physically on a laptop first, or a computer rather, a physical device. And then we did it the other way, remotely accessing another computer or physical device and configuring the firewall access that way, right? Because you may be, as a analyst or whichever your position is, IT support, you may be off-site or just in general work remote, and you may need to configure firewall for some physical devices you don't have physical access to for whatever reason, right? And this allows you to remotely access into these devices to be able to configure the settings properly whether there may be a group of new hires or someone may have transitioned. You may need to make sure that these settings are configured properly for your physical devices for the enterprise, right? So now what we're going to do as far as our next exercise, we're going to configure firewall rules from the command line interface. There's so many different rules, so many different ways to configure these rules, right? So command line interface, or CLI, right? It's one of the methods of communicating with OS or other software such as applications. And what the command line interface does that I have here open, the command prompt, is that we issue commands and receive responses in the format of text lines delineated from each other by command prompts. So CLI commands are powerful, excuse me, and they can actually achieve more with each command because they communicate with the software directly. So on the other hand, the CLI commands aren't intuitive, and we have to remember the commands, the syntax, and the context to make sure we're using them correctly. But yeah, you know, as far as anything extensive beyond that, you can just do your own research or Google. But first, what we're going to do is, again, same spiel. The only difference is how we're going to go about doing it, right? So we can use as I mentioned, we can use the CLI commands to configure firewalls on the computer as far as the rules. So we're going to test the effectiveness of the rules created. And first, what we always do, you have to confirm the connection status of the computer that we're testing it on between this one and the one that you're configuring, right? So to confirm the inbound ping packets to DC01 that they are blocked, we have to do a few things. All right. So, excuse me. So we do have, let's see. Where is it? Sure, we need to connect to this one. Oh, this guy went down. Probably tired from all the work. All right, let's see. We're going to go back to the network settings, network and sharing center. Okay. All right. And then see firewall. And then now on the Windows firewall window, we're just going to confirm that the firewall is activated for all three network profiles: the domain networks, home or work, or private networks for home and work, and public networks. So now that we've done that, now we're going to just follow the same steps that we did in the earlier. We're just going to access the file and printer sharing properties in the dialog box. Actually, this isn't the way. There it is. Make this one better. Okay, then we're going to block the connection. We're going to make sure it's applied. Then we're going to go back here. Actually, let me minimize this first. We're going to go back here. We're just going to ping it. It should give us the same. My big head out of the way. And of course, it gave us exactly what we were looking for the request to be timed out, because we blocked we configured an inbound rule for it to block any ping request, right? So this just confirmed that the incoming packets to practice lab DC01, they are blocked. So we're just going to leave the CLI open here. And now we're just going to configure the firewall using CLI commands specifically. So we're just going to, let's see, I'm going to make sure we click back on here. And then we're going to open the CLI for DC01, right? Because we just did it the OG way, or the way we have been doing it. Now we're going to do it the third alternative, right? So now in the command prompt, we're going to do I cannot spell today. Okay. So I'm just telling it what I want, pretty much, long story short. And it gives me what I need. It just says this is what you want. You want network sharing for advanced firewall settings for all profiles for the state to be off. Whenever I was mentioning private networks and domains and all of those, now they're going to show an all red or a red X mark showing that they're all off. We'll be able to see it here. See, there it is. We've turned it all off to the CLI. And we've known that we're confirming it now, but the CLI actually kind of pre-confirmed it with its okay response back to us once I gave it the command, right? So as I mentioned, we were just verifying the efficacy of the firewall rule. So after defining this rule, whether the commands modify the firewall is specified, we can actually test it, right? So the computers, I guess, all of the profiles are inactive or switched off, whichever way you like to call it. Hold on, verify. Oh, excuse me. To verify the efficacy of the rule, we're just going to do a few things, right? So we're going to right-click on the network icon. Let's see, network and sharing center. I think I'm already there. Just start from the top. All right, and then we're going to select Windows Firewall. And then all of these are off, like I mentioned. Okay, so now we're just going to switch back because we did verify these are off. And then we're going to ping this guy again. Let's see, why does it have all this space? Okay, there it is. Now we open up the floodgates, so it allows us to speak to them all day long. So we noticed that it received a response from the DCL1, and although the connection to the firewall and the print sharing gets blocked, but the reason it's coming in for us to ping it is because the rules that we've established initially were kind of null and void once we gave the command line interface the objective to turn off all the firewall settings in general for every domain, right? So once it does that, all of the actions or the commands I gave it to before just went null and void. So now what we're going to do, because that's ineffective now as far as the rule that I initially set, we're gonna reconfigure it, because what else are we gonna do, right? So we're going to use the CLI commands to reconfigure the firewall rules, and I'm going to use the actual CLI commands to switch them on, right, on the DCL1 computer. So we're going to go back to DCL1, and we're going to put in almost exactly what we put in before. And then this time, instead of off, we want it on. All right, and it says okay again, meaning that we were successful. Trust, but verify, right? So I like to start from the top. We're at network settings, blah, 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 network and sharing center. And then Windows Firewall here. Everything is back up and running, right? So we'll notice that not only did we receive the okay response, as I mentioned, that is informed that the firewall is switched back on for all the profiles. And I actually should close this since I got that taken care of. And now access to the firewall, Windows Firewall window, and we'll notice that it's not only switched on for all profiles, but it's now reconfigured using the CLI command that we use, right? So in addition, we're going to access the Firewall Advanced Security window to confirm that the inbound packets are still blocked. So yep, they are still blocked. Still blocked. Yep, just like we thought. Everything went right back to it was before we put in the CLI for turning off the all of the domain, private, and public networks, right? So now we're going to switch back to Windows 10. Then we're going to ping it one more time. Let's say, hey, buddy, what you doing over there? What's up, man? All right. Now, because it went back to what we had before, again, we just checked that it's blocking those inbound packets, right? So now the request is timing out whenever we're speaking to him. We're saying, hey, buddy, what's going on? He's not even getting our call. We're blocked. We're blocked. He doesn't see that we're calling or texting. Everything is going into the void as of this moment. So we've just successfully did a firewall rule-based management using the command line interface. This is so amazing. All right, so thank you so much for viewing this wonderful, wonderful module, part of the bigger cybersecurity fundamentals that I'm recording here. And today we've just reconfigured firewall rules, and we've went a few different ways about doing it, right? A few alternatives. We did it using Windows Firewall. We did it using Windows Firewall with advanced security. We've done it using remote access, and we've also done it from the CLI or the command line interface. So thank you so much for viewing this video. I'll come back for the next one, the next part of our, again, cybersecurity fundamental series, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.